Lost the bull's head. All right. What up, homies? What's going on in the hood? All right, let's get to fucking work. We got people to do, things to see, as they say in France. What's going on, everybody? Hey, so first thing we want to do, right? Let's take a look at the market indexes. We're in this a little bit of a spin cycle action, meaning like we've been getting gap ups, gap downs with no follow through to the gap side. So you can see, right, gap up fade, gap down, reverse fade, double inverse fade, however you want to look at it. So now we got a 0.86% gap down. The bear market playbook has always been, right, when you get the gap downs and you short them, but we have not seen that kind of follow through on these gap downs like at all of recent. But now that type of trick only lasts so many times, right? So we're gapping down to 20 SMA. We've kind of tested it a couple times here. This will be really, really important. Like, we're coming into some levels of support here, but like if we don't start the reverse, right, then, maybe that cycle is over. Tesla reported earnings today, right? Netflix didn't have that good of a reaction yesterday to the earnings, right? So these are your kind of tech bellwethers. And so that does put a little bit of pressure, but we have to be really, really careful because, like, you see yesterday we had the same 0.8% gap down on the Qs, and we farted around. We even gave some very nice. It looked like you're almost there. You wanted to do it. You could taste it. That fade, and it never came, and it ended up being a trend day to the upside. And well, that's one of the things that you got to be a little bit careful of when you see these things. Like if you took away this gap down and you just kind of started your chart, right? You just started your chart a little bit like this, you'd be like, oh, this is a trend day. I should be buying every single dip, right? But because we had the gap down, like sometimes it changes our thinking of like, oh man, this is, market's doing this and market's doing that, or the market's not, following through. So you got to change your perspective a little bit on this, So we'll see how the market reacts today. This was yesterday's low. We're basically like right at it, and we'll start to see if we push over it or not. And, if we fill this gap or not. But every time we've gapped down, we've been bought up. So we're going to take that into mind. We'll see if we start to fill it or not. But that's been the play. Now these Tesla earnings look like they probably were dog shit. And you could already tell, like, obviously everybody already knew the earnings were going to be like crap, because while the market's been, right, having a fandazzle, right, of a year, and Tesla did double in, January, it's been really just doing nothing for months, right? But even before that, the last 2 weeks, you've had this slow bleed on pretty, like you can see the volume distribution on up days. There's very little volume compared to down days. So, this was probably a little bit telegraphed for the most part. The price action on this thing has been shit forever for the last few weeks, right? This is just a giant bear flag. So now today, this is the key spots to kind of watch. You're opening right at a little bit of a support. I wouldn't call this major support, but it is, the old low, right? It is the old low from March before it had this kind of 30-40% run. So we are opening up right at that sweet spot, and it's very hard. Like this thing, you don't want to short this thing into the hole, right? Because it's already down 15 points. So what you want to start to do is like, let's start to see how this thing meanders around, how it starts to react to this area. It may need to pop up, and then, we might get a fizzle off on it, or, maybe you even get a little bit more than that and start to fill the gap. But, based on this price action, I wouldn't go with those odds. So this will be an interesting day. I think we want to put this on the watch list, of course. Definitely put Netflix on the watch list for a day 2 play. Watch and see how the low from yesterday starts to react. If the market starts to get shredded a little bit, right, we can take this as a day 2. It's broken under all its EMAs, and right, so you got this kind of rollover coming. If the market gets shredded today, then we'll see what's going on this one too. Now, beyond that, let's go in and let's just take a look and see what kind of earnings plays we have. And from there, we'll start to dig in and see What the heck is going on? By the way, if you guys got any juicy ones that you like, let me know. All right, so let's go and take a look. So first of all, small caps have been on fire lately. This is not my personal preference. I'm too old, too fat, too hairy to play these. But yesterday we were dabbling in them a little bit, and you can see something like this has got something like this has got a lot of heat. A lot of times you're like, okay, it's up 100%, but some of these have been going up 200, 300, 400%. So you do got a clean breakout on this one. So far, it's been acting pretty orderly. If you like to trade these little guys, this is probably something to put on your watch list. Not my particular cup of tea. I'm a coffee man, but the big hairy Indian butt of this is, you may get a chance on these small caps. They've been heating up. They've been heating up the last couple of weeks, and it's just something to keep in your back of your mind. Not necessarily my flavor, but I'll watch it for you guys. MDHS. So this is probably a big turd, right? So you already capped out on this and you're rolling over. That's probably a no buenos. DRMA. This is you had this big pop on this 60, 70 shares and million shares in volume, and now you're starting to kind of round out. This is one of those ones, if you start to see it attack into the fours, okay, you might get a little bit of a play on that. Usually for me, it's always the day ones and day twos, but after that, they seem to die out. OSHA, this one's been a pump and dumper for a little bit too, but you are starting to break out into some range. The liquidity's died on this though, so probably a pass for me. XPO. This is a shipping company. This thing trades e-liquid. So this is actually a good breakout. If you have earnings plays, this is a good looking breakout, but it's e-liquid. I've tried to trade this numerous times over the years, and it's a turd. Now this one, I think this is earnings out today, right? Let's take a look here. Regardless, this has been a big mover. It went from 4 to 10. It actually has decent enough liquidity. And now you're starting to pull back. I've been watching this one for a bounce for a little bit. The problem is right, you've already gapped up 10%. How much of the liquidity or how much of the ATR has been used on this? That'll be a little bit tricky. Well, let's take a look. I think this is something we might be able to add this. Let me just check and see if today was its earnings or not. Because if it's just gapping up for fun, probably no buenos. But if today was its earnings day, we'll take a look and see. Then one maybe big cock stocks. Hey, whoa, that just sounds a little bit racy. This was a pump and dump 2 out of mergers. Leave that alone. This is Tesla Q, the Tesla Bear ETF. You can see this thing is also right. All the Tesla Bear ETFs are starting to get shredded. Hey, AMD sitting on that 50-day moving average becomes really, really tricky. Vicky, do you love me? And turn. All right, a little bit light. Let me bring up a little bit of the earnings calendar here. Let's see what we got. You can see here before the market. Are we in the 4-20? You got STX, junk. We'll take a look at STX Nucor, WSO, Manpower, junk. American Express, Philip Morris, little Marlboro Red, Blackstone. Okay, so you got a few of these bad boys. Comerica. All right, these bank stocks have been flying on their earnings, but we'll see if those kind of have a day 2 in them. We want to check a couple of these bad boys out. He's not having a very good reaction so far. You can see here, we got a lot of earnings plays out today before the market. Good. Now let's take a look here. Right, so let's take a look at a couple of these banks because banks were flying yesterday. And so you can see here, you got a light open on Comerica. This had earnings out, right? Light open on this one, but you get a big trend on this one. This is probably a candidate to watch for a red to green, just based on how the banks were acting yesterday. I'd add this bad boy. Right, we had a run in FRC yesterday. Right, this earnings is out on 4-24, but this was a big push. Now this thing's a turd. It's probably going to zero at some points. You got to take things with a grain of salt. Like you can't hold on to this thing. It's a big gelatinous, smelly piece of excrement in a nice manner, of course. But this has probably got maybe a day two. Let's watch this for the red to green. Right, Pac W had a range break here. And then, man, you had a nice shredder, so you had a big little short squeeze going in some of these. You got a fairly light open, only 30 cents. Like this is I think we can red to green this bad boy too. And let's see how they hold, right? So don't just jump into this thing. We'll have to see how they hold if they start to build at the open, right? So you open up, you start to build, you start to push into the red to green. You can take a little bit of like a starter before you go red to green. Like say a third, right? You go red to green, you can add another third, right? And then if you really start to attack these highs, then you can start to, you can start to dig into it balls deep. Right, same thing. So this wall had earnings out yesterday. Man, it had a nice little squeeze too. Like you could see into the afternoon, like you started to pick up, right? Broke out the high of days. Now you're in another level of resistance over here. So that's going to be important. You got a pretty light open on this, down about 1%, right? You start to see this thing marinate. You go red to green, like we could get a little bit of a squeeze on this. Now, these things are pigs, right? These things are pigs. So you cannot hold these overnight. You don't want to do any of those things, right? Like these things are pigs for a reason, but they are scalpy McGee's, right? You could come in hot for like 30 minutes, whatever, right? 5 minutes, just the way I like to do it. You can see Schwab, this is another bank that had a really good run, but you had 3 big days coming off support. This probably needs a couple days of like couple inside days, just like some little bit of rest, Topher, and then I think this one will be pretty good. But you got to let this one, you probably got to let this one just chill for a bit because you never want to buy. You never want to buy on like day 4. You can day trade this back and forth, but you don't want to come in hot and like buy it on a day 4. Yeah. All right, let's see what else we got here. STX had earnings. Yeah, you can see this thing is getting dumped on a little bit here, right? So you got, you don't got very good reaction. There weren't that many good positive earnings plays, but a lot of these tech companies they've been getting a little bit saucy. You got STX, you got FFIV, I believe, right? That's getting Gennard here, and you're breaking some big levels here. Now this thing's pretty illiquid, so I didn't put it on the list. Like you can see, like for the most part, it just it's got a big spread on it. Good. Yeah, let me take a look at. So this AI is tough because like you're just stuck in a range. Every time it pops up, it gets faded off. But I think even that play is getting a little bit tired now. So like this isn't a more of a wait and see kind of thing. Like the range is really tightened up, but it's just not. Like you see the ATR is declining like pretty fast, like from where it was just about 10 days ago to where it is now. So as that ATR starts to decline, you just don't get the range to trade in it. So probably they all look okay, but they just don't have any Momo on it right now. So you got Sound sitting on support, right? BBAI, that's sitting on support, like, but they don't have the heat right now. So what you usually need is some kind of catalyst. You need one company to come out with the PR. You need one stock somewhere to start getting pumped, and then you can start piling into these things, right? So these are just sympathy plays. So when one of them starts to really aggressively move, then you can start to come in hot and shred the other ones, because that's all these are, is like trading vehicles, right? Like none of these companies probably do any AI. The smart people are just putting the AI in their names. I should do that. Bulls on Wall Street.ai. See if I can get myself a little IPO. Now, let's talk about some, trenders that were yesterday that we may want to look at for day two in case the market starts to shred today or start to fill that gap. Amazon had a red to green yesterday in a pretty big range break over here. I think this is a prime time candidate for a red to green if the market goes right. This is we're in a precarious spot here because we got a monster cock gap down. So Amazon number one, right? I'm done shorting this fucking pig. This thing looks like it wants to party. I changed my tune. I've done too many donations shorting this thing. I'm jumping on the NVIDIA bandwagon. Keep an eye. This is a red to green 280 break, and we shred it. All right. Now, these are big ifs, though. We would need some recuperation from the market, and we are slowly. And it feels like a little bit toppy to me, but I'm an anarchist at heart. So I always think that this is going to be the key level. If we start to break over, then, we may have to start to long some stuff. But if we can build out here, then, we'll see what's going on. It broke me, really did. PTPI does got some heat on it. Yeah, you can see in the close, like this took out. And guys, these little guys have been running. Like, I hate trading them, but these little guys have been running. Sneaky little bastard, too. See, then sometimes these are a little bit better in the pre-market. Like, you can tell this is just like a chat room guy, right? Like 100,000 shares. There's like some asshole with the Discord room, just jamming buttons. Like, let's do this, guys. Let's do this. Let's get in on this. You can add it if you want. Good. Yeah, Wall, PEC W. Let's just narrow this down. PEC W for the red to greens. FRC for the red to greens. On the short side, right? We'll need a little bit of a bounce at the open. We got Tesla on the short side. Netflix for day two under previous day's lows. This would be very nice. I gotta narrow down my list a little bit here. Hold on here one sec. Let me narrow this down. Yeah, we had Comerica too. That's a nice Michigan bank. We got Tesla. Good. Some other plays that we need to just kind of be familiar with in case the market holds. All right. Onon's got a breakout around 32. It did just pop up for a second, just get its de-shredded again. But it's still got that look. If the market starts to hold, right? And then MBLY had a breakout into highs, and now you're kind of retesting back into this. This is probably, I believe this is an AI play or an AI type of play. So this is probably one of the more safer ones. It's not going to be as sexy, but we'll see if this retest holds here into this kind of 44, 45 zone. If it does, and we get some cooperation from the markets, that's probably a bouncy McGee. I don't know if we need much more than that. Let's take a look on the downside, see if we got any good shredders. The ones I saw besides Tesla were a little bit illiquid. Nokia. Nice Swedish phone company. Yeah, this is an ADR. It actually has a lot of liquidity in it. You could probably trade this. It has no ATR on it, 13 cents a day. So it's not really my cup of tea. Key Bank. Now, this is the one thing we got to be careful of today. You know, those banks were hot yesterday, but they don't necessarily have to be hot today, right? Like you can see this Key Bank, which is a big bank. It's a $12 billion bank, is getting its right. It's getting its nuts snipped a little bit. Yeah, you're breaking under some levels here like that. I think we add that to the list too. We'll use that as a potential tell. Easy Zion. Hey, this Vine was hot for like 2 seconds yesterday. It was like 2 candles of love and then break. You might get a day two out of this if you can remount this 200 SMA in this, let's just say 450 range. See how it starts to absorb around that 4 spot? If you start to see buyers really step in, you start to see it absorb, then you'll know it's going to make a push into the 450. Like you've seen that a lot lately. They'll come down, start looking like they're going to break down, and then they just start to absorb there and fill, and then before you know it, like you get a mega penis candle to the upside. These China stocks are all good. Hey, AT&T had earnings out today. It's open on the 200-day moving average. That's not our cup of tea right there. STX, like this you can add. Like this has got a breakdown look to it. And then, I mean, anyways, who uses disk drives anymore? Look at this thing. You got a breakdown on here. Now, this thing is a little bit thin. It usually just does 3 million shares, but that's got a good look to it. Oh, and this is maybe a little bit more our speed, right? So you got a nice rollover on this one too. Does enough liquidity, not ideal, but 4 or 5 million shares is you said one. You can see here. So with the Tesla earnings today, if Tesla's a little bit too pricey for you, right? Watch this Lucid for the breakdown. 725 is a spot. You can come in hot on this thing, and probably even on Rivian. This thing's a pig. This is still a $12 billion company. Like this thing is breaking lows for the bros. Like this, sometimes the offshoots are a little bit easier to trade than the main thing, right? Because Tesla's a wild beast sometimes. But you got breakdown spots in Lucid and Rivian. You can come in hot on both of these. And if you want to trade something just a tad slower. Let's take a look. It's bouncing a little bit now off the old low, right on the dot. Yeah, they tend to just put the algos on at some of these spots for like a hot second. We'll see how that holds. Guys, be safe today because the market's giving us a lot of cross currents. Every time we gap, we've been reversing, but it's not been clean reversals. But also, like we're kind of getting into like a little bit of a weird consolidation, right? Where all the strength is getting faded up, but the dips are getting bought, and we're in a little bit of opposite no man's land versus like pure momentum trading. So be careful today. Watch these earnings plays. Watch these banks. Tesla, Netflix for shorts, right? Amazon, some of these bad boys for potential longs if the market starts to reverse, along with the banks. Let's go do what we do, which is the do. All right. God bless America. Fuck it.